Welcome back on Laughing Museums. I am in one of these absolutely unique place in the world. Here we go. Welcome to Teotihuacan. Teotihuacan is probably the most emblematic of the Mesoamerican civilizations. Aztec, Toltec, Mayas. This, what you're looking at right now, is probably the biggest pyramid, La Pyramid del Sol. We are between 200 and 700 of this time, even though we know that this has been populated at least 400 years before our time today. We're still not really sure why this population abandoned this place. Water, disease, nothing is like super clear. So it's really really weird to know. I'm enjoying the fact that we still have the balloons in the air floating right there. Absolutely beautiful right there. So let's give it a shot and see what it has to offer. So truth be told, we don't know much about the civilization of Teotihuacan. There's more and more study. One thing we know for sure is like on the all other site that have been visited in Tikal, in La Venta, in Palenque, we find some influence on most of the site from Teotihuacan, which is telling you about the power and the extent. We also consider the most refined, and I'm heading the museum where I'm going to make most of my videos because that is laughing museums, and I'm a museum freak. But you can tell already how refined it is just by the way the constructions are made right there. And if you remember, or you can check that out somewhere, there's a site, Calma, called Cal, something like this, where they were having a lack of construction materials, so they use oysters, they pile oysters to make the stucco between the stones, right? So you can see really the city and the construction, and we're lucky now this morning to have the balloons just going down, then went to have probably what is considered as one of the best view of the Pyramid of the Sun. And as it is early morning, I just got in at 8. This is the opening time, so I was almost all alone in there. I feel super blessed about that. Well, whatever you like it or not, I mean, you have to say there's some magic in this side. The Pyramid del Sol is facing the Pyramid de la Luna. Something that is interesting in the and interesting and kind of a disturbing at some way is that the fact that the Maya civilization is mostly a dual civilization. That means it's really like the Sol and la Luna, uh, life and death, etc., men and women. There's a male principle and a female principle. So everything is really based on that. And I have to say, the alignment of that main alley of that city of Teotihuacan is very impressive indeed. And really, you still have some of those morning balloons which are really doing the trick. To be honest with you, it's doing most of the trick because there is not much left to see per se on the site. And more site of pyramids we've been seeing, the more I realize it's really good to have the museums and help, because clearly this lost 90% of its former glory. It lost the people. That's first. It's in like a detail. It lost the people. It lost the colors. We know most of those monuments were fully painted, and thank God the colors of the balloons are kind of helping a little bit right now. And it lost the music. It lost the activity. It lost the game. Sad or not, but it lost human sacrifice. And I'm into fantastic reading of René Girard, professor from Stanford, which is probably very famous in the US, is in France right now. France didn't like him so much, that's why I love him so much. Yeah, no, this guy is absolutely amazing, and that's why I kind of like his work a lot on sacrifice and the fact that we do make sacrifice, and all the civilization are making sacrifice, and even you and me, you and I, we are doing in a way sacrifice when we mock someone. And I'm a stand-up comic, so basically when you make fun of people, you are kind of putting a lot of pressure on someone, which is quite something. Bueno. So it's really hard to imagine what Teotihuacan would have looked like back in the days again. So probably something like 1800 years ago, around the year 200. We think that's where most of those buildings between 200 and at least 700 BC, when they abandoned the site, have been made. I do have to say, I'm really admiring the color stone they put there. Oh my God, look at that bird again, right there. I have to say, it's really impressive. The nature in this place, the balloon, everything is working. We're just saying with my wife that the balloons are really making this whole thing work, right? Now back to something that I was reading is René Girard. René Girard is a specialist of violence in society, and of course it's almost impossible to talk about the Maya civilization and the civilizations of Mesoamerica without mentioning human sacrifice. This kind of stone right there, there used to be stone flat that you can see in museums, and we find so many axes. Some people say that it was mostly symbolic, etc. But no, that's not true. I do believe with the study of René Girard that yes, it's been human sacrifice. And he says something that really about, and it's written in Thucydides, the Greek historian, that even the Greeks, in the Battle of Salamine, if I'm correct, went back to human sacrifice and they sacrifices, butcher, steal, and murder in a way, two slaves before the, which is weird because the Greeks never did something like this, and they will win that battle. Is it related to the human sacrifice? It's hard to believe nowadays, but that's mostly how it is, right? One thing, though, that René Girard used to mention as well, it's really interesting to read René Girard to understand the whole concept of the Maya civilization and most of the civilization of Mesoamerica, even though we study mostly the ancient religion, the ancient Christian, which is one of my favorite subjects of study as well, with Paul Diel, my favorite theologian. And one thing on the sacrifice of violence, like it's almost impossible to establish such a society without having this kind of sacrifice. And again, I was just telling you, we're still doing it today. Well, René Girard saying we're still doing it today, even in a simple way. Even me, as a stand-up comic, and it's funny because I was talking with a friend who is in comedy as well, as I can't make jokes about people with disabilities, and I don't know if it's a good or bad thing. It's a thing. Personally, I don't do it. I know some people, but by not doing it, I exclude people with disability from society, because making joke of each other in a certain degree is a good thing. And believe me, I've been married for 10 years, so I know. Well, believe me, you know when it's not a good show. Your partner will let you know, and that's why one of the pleasure of marriage as well, I guess, right? Yeah. No, I got it back. That's the thing I wanted to say about this whole violence thing. Is like the theory of René Girard is like the mimetic theory. Is like violence is coming from rivalry. I'm not really sure how to say that. So basically, in nature, two male will be fighting for a female, and for human being could be the same. René Girard have a theory that most of the war have been started because of women, and the Troy War is probably with Ellen the most famous example of that. But it's mostly, and that's why it's very close to what we know, it's mostly also due to rivalry for territory, mostly, right? And that's why this territory rivalry is absolutely essential, of course, right? And when you study a little bit the history of Mesoamerica and Mexico per se, I remember Sanchez when he arrived, took him in Veracruz, by the way, where I was still yesterday. I don't know, I've been traveling so much lately, I don't even know where I am. That, yeah, he took down the entire society in 2 years, right? In 15 years, it was completely over, by the way. So that's why it's very, very impressive, right? So the rivalry is really what creates violence, right? And it's funny because, yeah, there's something else. Of course, we know most of the violence and the sacrifices here were mostly ritual, that means religious. And yesterday, my 7 years old asked me about God, and he said, "What about this thing about God?" And he asked me a very specific question. So, when did human beings started to believe in God? Or he said, I think the question like when God was born. I think it was a fantastic question. It's probably the question, right? And I was explaining him the theory of Paul Yell is like basically men starting to create divinities for the phenomenon that they can't explain, right? For example, we know here we got 600 kind of divinities in the Maya imagination because they have a divinity for everything. They have a divinity for cheating. How about that, right? They have a divinity for every season. They have Teotihuacan, which is a divinity with the sun is for the rain. They have the house of uh, the plume serpent, etc., etc., snake. So there's so many divinities in and again, that was a phenomenon we can't explain, and that's why by human beings, by creating and really moving the entire science to the level where they kind of threatened Galileo and people like that, and then finally science took over. The religious science said like they decided not to believe in God, and that's what Nietzsche called the killing of God per se. And that's why when you're like in super duper religious environment, like people who have been pyramid for that, but of course they're not only religious building, they're also building meant for power, except the power and religious was really linked by the time of this kind of a civilization, of course, and that is why you really need to understand that. Of course, you have to imagine most of those buildings were painted with turquoise, which I'm going to show you in other videos in the museum, where I'm going to head very soon. All right. So thank you so much for watching. Don't forget, no matter what you do, if you're not doing with a smile, well, you might be doing it wrong. You guys take care.